number, and more. As soon as you hand it over, you lose control. We're often asked to give away too much of our private data. Once it's out of your hands, that information can become susceptible to hacking, the sale of your personal data, or a barrage of unwanted ads. But what if there was an option to verify your personal information without giving away unnecessary, critical, private details? Verifiable credentials, a pillar of Web 5, solves this. There are digital certificates of claims that are easily shared in a private and secure way. They can prove your legal name, age, ownership of an asset, or anything really. Verifiable credentials limit the amount of data you share to only what's required, and they can't be tampered with or faked. Let's reimagine how identification could work. With Web 5, the government issues a verifiable credential that proves your identity and lives in what we call an identity wallet. So now when you check into the hotel, you present the front desk with a verifiable credential and share only what the hotel needs. This establishes that you are who you say you are, without giving away more personal information than you'd like. Verifiable credentials make proving claims easier, more private, and more secure.
Hello, happy Friday to everyone. I hope you're doing well. If this is your first time tuning in on a Friday, this is basically, I'm calling it TBD TV, and we connect with SSI experts in the industry to learn what they're all about and what they're doing, and just learn about the ecosystem as well. Before I introduce our guests, I'll show you all a quick preview of what our live streams normally look like if you're just curious about how to tune in and what to expect.
In the music industry, why people get overwhelmed with it is this is it. This is the music industry. If you zoom,
that's crazy.
Like this is every participant and every legal contract. And so, yes, it's really complex, but if you simplify it into a supply chain as a precursor to why SSI, why decentralized identity is so important, you have a lot of different industry identifiers. This is how you get paid, and your music, where it's used, gets tracked throughout the world.
When we were learning about Web 5, it really showed that there's so many possibilities regarding user safety and privacy that you can do with Web 5, so which is what the main focus we wanted our app to embody.
Especially with the ride-sharing experience, in doing our research, we found we're especially concerned about protecting their payment details, their location. These are really sensitive pieces of information. We're really compelled to help people feel safe and secured in our version of a ride-sharing app.
Suppose a Brazilian banking institution wants to leverage your tools. What would the flow be like? What are the protocols used in order to implement this flow?
A couple of different ways it can work. Sometimes if it's just that direct institution, they'll integrate with us using APIs in the back end. So that institution controls the front end. They can control the wallet, they can control their traditional web app, that then calls Finclusive to do those compliance checks and issue the Finc ID for them. Finclusive can issue the wallet, but typically it's our partners are doing.
I think education is probably what the internet was built for, sharing information, sharing knowledge. Platforms like YouTube, Twitch, etc. have done a fantastic job of connecting people who know a lot of information. However, it's very hard for someone to go onto YouTube and understand that the person that they're learning from is verified, a good educator, knows what they're talking about, 20 years in the business or whatever it is.
Okay, well, that's an intro to how our live streams usually go. All right, so today's topic's really interesting, particularly to me, because I'm really all about open source. And I recently learned that like wallets, digital wallets in particular, in 2021, like handled about like 15.9 trillion transactions, which I thought was crazy. And now I realized that as well, people have some issues with open source wallets. I mean, not open source wallets, but digital wallets, which is why open source wallets were born. And I would love to learn more about it from Mirko, who's our guest today. All right, Mirko, usually before I have people introduce who they are and what they do, I ask them a quick question, an icebreaker question. And I want to ask this question to the audience as well. My question is, would you rather use command line interfaces only or touchscreens for the rest of your life?
I honestly think it's the command line because, well, we want one-tap solutions in the daily life, but when it's complicated, you want a keyboard. You want this easy interface. Maybe in the future we have this brain transformation, so I don't even have to use my fingers at all. But yeah, I'm team command line.
Oh, wait, you want to like use your brain and then it starts typing things?
It would be great, yeah. The direct ship to OpenAI here, please code me this stuff, would be wonderful.
Awesome. All right, well, we got some comments. I like that. We got some comments from the audience. I'm going to say hi to Ace KYDTV, hey to Torben, and Ciora said she prefers touchscreen. Torben said he prefers touch, but we are moving towards gesture. Oh yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about gesture, just being like, ooh. I think I will be on your side. I like command line. I like the power I have to like go into what I want. And sometimes I feel like touchscreen malfunctions a lot. So I don't know. All right. So really quickly, y'all, we in less than an hour now that I took up 7 minutes, we're gonna do intros. We're gonna talk about digital wallets. We'll talk a little bit about the Open Source Wallet Foundation and how other organizations that Mirko works with ties into that. We'll show a demo and we'll do a little Q&A. So from my research, Mirko, I saw that you're an identity architect for, I don't know if it's pronounced Sprind or Sprind, and they're working on a German Sprind. Okay, a German EU digital identity wallet. You're like the chair for 2 Open Wallet Foundation special interest group. You're doing your PhD on verifiable credentials, and you have a master's in cybersecurity. It feels like your whole career is focused on digital identity, and I'm curious what drew you to this space.
All right, so where should I start? Let's start with the blockchain part. So it started in 2018 during my master degrees, where I looked, okay, what can you do with blockchain other than cryptocurrencies? And my professor told me, well, look into the blockchain, you look into the credential part, so credentials for digital identities. So I dived deeper, programmed also an own blockchain, founded a startup and so on. Turned out pretty well in the development, but then we saw there was no real demand, and Germany and blockchain, it's not the best fit. Let's frame it this way. And during this time, also a lot of other solutions popped up, like different credential formats. We had AnonCreds, we had the VC data model. So it got very complicated, or not complicated, but the same situation we had with cryptocurrency. Like we have Bitcoin, we have Ethereum, other cryptocurrency in a whole ecosystem, and everything should work together. So then I thought, well, okay, how can we move it? Because every approach has its advantage and disadvantages. It's not there's a solution that fits all. There's some are better for privacy preserving use cases. Others are more like very scalable approach cases or for fast prototyping. And this is why we had a project at our a working group at one of the internet identity workshops, where we started an Excel sheet and looked at all the different credential profiles we have out there, which approaches are there. And then we did the same with the wallet solutions, because we thought, well, it's very unlikely to find the wallet that fits it all, but maybe we can give an overview over the existing solutions. And then people can decide, okay, what are my requirements? And then the whole list of dozen of entries will shrink down to maybe 5, and then you can choose from them. So this is one part of the Open Wallet Foundation where we say, well, here's an overview where every provider can participate. I can show this later if we have time for this. And of course, the open source development. So Open Wallet Foundation was founded, I think, more than a year ago, 1.5 or so. And they said, well, the digital identity space is growing and it can be very big, 1 billion or trillion market share. But for now, it's too small that a company, even bigger enterprises, say, well, we can afford the whole tech stack, development, maintaining, auditing it, it's too much. So the idea was that companies are coming together in a foundation and working on the core modules, like we have implementation for a specific transport protocol. Okay, let's work together on this. We have a protocol to manage DIDs or verifiable credentials. Great, let's work on this. And then every one of these companies is able to build their products on top, but you don't have this kind of vendor lock-in that you are bound to one specific company. This company goes out of the market or is bought by your competitor. So this is the primary goal of the Open Wallet Foundation, to give a home to open source projects that are in the wallet ecosystem.
Awesome. No, that was really good context, especially understanding that you all realized, okay, there's all these different solution, or not every solution is going to fit one person. So let's just give them all of them, and then we'll be able to narrow it down. All right. I do want to take a small step back because I know that we have like a varied amount of viewers. Some people who are deep into the SSI system and some people who are like, what is this? So how will you describe, like, to maybe a kid or a 5-year-old what a digital wallet is?
Well, a digital wallet is something that will make your life easier. It's not an app like Instagram, YouTube, where you consume information, where you connect with people. It's a tool. And it should work like a tool. Maybe not a child will know it, but when you are coming to into a store and you want to pay, you tap your card. You don't have to count your bills, your money, and get exchange money. You just give it, and everything is done automatically. And this is the main idea behind the wallet. The wallet will automate processes for you, but in your favor. Like when I want to share information, like, okay, I want to buy alcohol, I have to prove that I'm maybe over 16 in Germany, but over 18 in other countries. My wallet is capable to give a valid proof to the store, so the store can be safe. Like, okay, this person is over the limit that he can buy alcohol, and I am also in favor because I decided what data I shared with which entity. So, and this will not only work in the analog way, it will also work in the digital way, like also single sign-on. I could use for this, or when I open a bank account and so on. So in general, the wallet will give you control over your data, but we will add the verifiable part of it. So a lot of processes can be automated and not like, okay, please send a copy of your driver license or your ID card per letter, and then we will prove it. Maybe it's correct or not. We don't know it. And with the rise of AI, we know how easy it is to fake images. So the whole cryptography part we are using with cryptocurrencies and also for credentials is getting very important, because an AI cannot crack this really. So quantum computer could be a problem, but for this, it would help a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that example. Like you gave like analog, digital, these are all good. And I always tell people about like proving that you are like of legal drinking age, because then I think that makes it click for people. They're like, oh, okay, I get that. Actually, I have a question. And this might be a dumb question. But basically I saw that for the Open Wallet Foundation, the special interest group you do is for digital wallets and agents.
Mhm.
Is there a difference to, because at Web5 we have our own term of an agent, and I want to know, like, is a wallet and an agent the same thing to you, or is it different? What's the difference?
So there are honestly different definitions, even for the term wallet. When you ask 5 people what is a wallet, you get 5 different answers. So here we made it quite easy. A wallet is more something like that is holding credentials for a subject, natural or legal persons, and the agent is, for example, more for the issuer or the verifier, so for the relying parties. So this is the difference we are making. When I could share the screen, we could jump into the overview. So here we have this. I can share later the link if you like.
And
so here we have.
Hold on a quick second.
Okay.
Sorry. We will definitely get to that. And I actually am excited that you're going to share that link, because my team actually uses that and we look at it. What we're going to do really quickly is just break a little bit before we break is I just like to do a little bit of audience engagement. So really quickly, since I brought up the agent section, I am going to just tell people. Let me just switch the screen really quickly. We're getting to the demo. Don't you worry. What we're going to do after this is I'm going to switch over to a quick quiz, and then you'll jump into your demo. And this quiz will particularly be on like wallets and agents. Even if you don't know the answers, feel free to just type in the chat and try it out, and then you'll get the answer afterwards. So right after that, we'll jump into your demo, and look at the wallets and agents that you're going to show us, and then also talk about your project, CredHub, and whatever else you're going to show. Is that cool?
Sounds great.
Awesome. Cool. All right, let's jump into the quiz, y'all. Get ready to type your answers in the comments. All right, awesome. So we did get answers in the Discord. Good job, y'all. I think there's a lag, so I was trying to figure out which one y'all were answering, but I saw Andre and Brian, and I saw Tech and FA answering. All right, let's jump into you showing us all about these wallets and digital agents. I mean, digital wallets and agents, and then your demo as well.
Exactly. So I think because the whole overview was started by TNO and Findinet, they separated it in wallets and agents, like one for natural persons and one for legal persons. But here we tried to define different criteria, more like, for example, which type of wallet do I have? Is it in the cloud or on the device? Then, of course, is it open source or not? So here we make no difference no requirement that it has to be open source. So also shout out to you when you are a wallet provider. Every wallet that is dealing with identity can be submitted to this list via a GitHub pull request. And then we have, of course, the different capabilities, like is it for a normal holder, or can I also use it, for example, for an issuer or so. And then, of course, okay, maybe I can download the app. And then the most important part is what functionalities are supported. So in the SSI world, we unfortunately have different solutions. And so I have to find ecosystems that have aligned on the specific profiles and so on. So here, for example, I would see that the Gattaca wallet supporting AppC, but for example, the Holder Plus is only supporting AnonCred. So here we would have a problem with the interaction in an ecosystem. So we hope in the end that the most wallets will be compatible to each other. And what was missing here in this overview was like, okay, because I'm coming from the scientific background, like doing my PhD, I need something where I can play around. I need a wallet I can play around. I need an agent I can play around to test new stuff. And this was how CredHub was born. Because
Interesting. Okay. That makes sense.
So the point was like, we are far too early to say, okay, I'm building a product, shipping it out, 1 million users will pay for it and use it. Some startups tried, most of them failed, in my opinion, but there is still hope. So the idea was like, okay, we are still talking about Web3, where you are in control of your data. But on the same side, we are seeing a lot of providers moving to the cloud, because the cloud solution is giving a lot of more or better user experience. Because in the end, when you have installed an app on your smartphone, the user will not see where's the data located. Is it on the smartphone? Is it in the cloud? You will just see when the user experience is bad. And for example, like, okay, he has just everything on his smartphone, he's losing his smartphone, and then all his data is gone. And we made some research like, yes, when we are talking with all the experts in the Web3 or Web5 space, everyone knows how to do a backup. Everyone is aware of it. But think of your parents. Think of the people that are not familiar with technology. And for this, we need easy solutions. And so the idea with a cloud wallet was born, where we still have the Web3 approach. So we have the issuer, we have the holder, and we have the verifier, because a normal Web2 approach would be the issuer and the holder would be the same system. So we have built this project. As I mentioned, it's an open wallet foundation project, meaning it's open source license with the Apache 2 license. So every project we have in the Open Wallet Foundation, you can get an overview over the different projects, like, for example, here, different implementations in different languages, or, for example, bigger contributions. Even, for example, Google contributed stuff to the Open Wallet Foundation, can be used for free. You don't have to be a member at the Open Wallet Foundation. You can participate in all the meetings for free. You don't have to sign a contract or pay any fees. And even when you say, like me, you have a cool project in the wallet space, you can contribute it to the Open Wallet Foundation, and they will not disrupt your way. When you say, I want to go this way, they will let you go. So this is really cool about the Open Wallet Foundation. But I think it's more interesting to go practically in the stuff when we look what is a wallet. So when looking at Germany, where I'm based, we have the EU regulation, the EIDAS 2 regulation, giving specific requirements of what a digital credential, what a specific credential type or transport protocol should look like. So there are multiple. We can look in this later. Like I mentioned, AnonCreds, DITCOM, and so on. So you could implement all the different DIT methods. I think over 150 we have. You could implement this. But the EU said, well, we have to make sure that all the member states are interoperable. So citizens from France can use their national identity card when they are traveling to Poland or Austria and so on. So they have decided to specific credential format, for example, SDJOT and MDoc that gets supported. And this is also part of the wallet. So here we have this web wallet. The login is with OpenID Connect. So here we're using a typical key cloak. The idea here was like, because some people said, well, I want a wallet that I can connect with my existing system, like my existing identity access management system. So here we could go to university, to a company and say, well, you already have your identity and access management system, could be in Azure, could be on-premise. You can just connect it, and every employee, every student will have a wallet. So this is really cool. And what do we need in this wallet? So of course we need this overview. Like here I see my specific credential. It's of course a demo credential. We are working on in Germany right now on bringing the EID, the national identity card, into a wallet. So here it's a demo case. And normally it would work this way, that you are going to a specific page, of course, to a specific provider, and they would say, okay, here we will issue your credential, and then we are getting a QR code. Or for example, I could get an NFC device when I'm in the office and tap to it. And here I would scan it with my smartphone, but for the demo purposes, of course, we would copy the link and could directly go to the QR code scanner and say, here, I insert this, and I would say, okay, here the German government wants to give me this identity card. Do I want to accept this to my wallet? I could deny it. I could accept it. Of course, I will accept this. And now I have this credential in my wallet. And we could, of course, debug it. For example, let's look what's inside the credential. So here we see, for those who are not familiar with SDJOT, it's based on a JSON Web Token with some more information. Like, for example, here I have a holder binding feature, like I have a public key that is bounded to this credential, making sure I cannot share this credential, or I can transfer the ownership to another person very easily. We have cases where we say, okay, NFT should be used because they're like, for example, for tickets and so on. The issuer wants that the holder can transfer the ownership, but normally for credentials that are bounded to a person, we don't want this. And of
can
course,
I ask a question? Sorry.
yes,
So
of course.
for the difference, tell me if I'm wrong or right. For the difference between like an SDJWT and the JWT is the SDJWT allows for selective disclosure, right? Like
Exactly.
it allows you to say you only want to show this part. Okay, cool. Sorry.
Exactly. So normally, this is a good point you mentioned, because in Web3, we are talking about privacy. And what is in the credential here, I have specific hashes in the credential. So I don't have included the plain text. So when I want to present you my name, like my pre-name, I will present you also this value in plain text. But for my surname, I will only present you the hash. So we know this approach a bit from Merkle trees, from blockchains, and so on. And so when I present this to you, you are able to verify that my name is Mirko, and you know that this is from a valid credential. And the algorithm behind this is so simple that, as I've shown, there are multiple implementations in Rust, Kotlin, Python, and so on. So it's very simple to implement with a very good increase in privacy. And let's go back, because the issuer said, well, of course, here you have got your credential, it's issued, and now, of course, we want to present it. And now we would go to another provider that wants to see my identity. So here, same approach. I would go, I would again copy the QR code, go back to my scanner, and here, now the verifier would ask, here, I want to see your credential. And in this case, I have 2 credentials in my wallet that would match this criteria. So I would say here, okay, please select this. And here, of course, we have implemented this for the biometric scan. So I have to authenticate this with my fingerprint to make sure I'm using the device and not Riser, of course, or my child and so on, because maybe it's for buying alcohol. And now I've shared the data and the verifier knows, okay, here I've got the data, I can go on with my use case. And the good part is of this, when we are talking about privacy, I have the whole history preserved. So I can be sure with whom I have shared which data. So in this case, I only shared my pre-name with this relying party, which gets very interested when we are talking about GDPR in Europe, because their relying parties are only allowed to request data they are authorized to, or where they say, well, I have a very specific reason why I need this data, why I need to know that you are over 18 or below 18. So this is the one wallet. It's a progressive web app that you can install on your iOS, Android phone. But talking about usability, and since everything is in the cloud, when we are going to this again, maybe some of you have noticed this little button, and this is the browser plugin that's coming in. So since it's a web wallet, I just need my credentials to log into this wallet, and this wallet will be able to scan all the websites I'm visiting, like this one, for QR codes, and pop up like, hey, I found a QR code here. Should I scan this? And I say, yes, I scan this, and it's telling me here, okay, behind this QR code, there's a credential. Do you want to add this to your wallet? I say, yes, of course I want to add this to my wallet. And of course, the same for, this was just a presentation. And the same would happen when we would want to present information. So I see the first question. Yeah, does this wallet support DIDs? No.
It doesn't support DIDs at all. Interesting.
No. Let's frame it not yet, because we wanted to build the wallet with RF first. So we would only support the protocols that are defined in the RF. And unfortunately, DIDs are not included.
Interesting. What's that word? RF?
The architecture reference framework. So we have the EUDIs. The EUDIs is the regulatory body, and the architecture reference framework is defining the technical aspects of it. So it is not supporting DIDs yet, but we are planning to add them, because in the end, this we don't think that this solution will be one of the final projects that will be used by EU citizens, because of all the requirements of certifications and so on. So here we want also to open it. And here, as you mentioned also, Tanya, yes, SDJOTs are supporting DIDs. So
I think they're saying, will your wallet only support SDJOTs, or is it also going to support other types of VC formats?
We are thinking about it, because the problem is right now, when you are presenting credentials, you cannot present different formats. So I cannot present an SDJOT and a W3C VC data model together. This is a problem right now. But of course, we started with SDJOT, but the integration of MDoc and also W3C VC data model is planned for this year. And also then for DIDs, for issuing, we are not sure of the holder, if a holder DID will be included, because this is not finally defined in the spec of the SDJOT.
Gotcha. And I think I have an idea why. So Tanya shared this from Andre, but I think I have an idea why they're asking this. I think our community members are eager for the Web5 community to have like a specific wallet. So a lot of like the did that they just mentioned, the DHD and did JWK, those are specific to Web5. And I know right now we do JWT, but not SD JWT. So they're probably like, can I integrate this with any Web5 solution? But it sounds like you're saying there's some limitations for you because you're going by the frameworks that are within Europe right now.
Primary, but also we saw with other projects that included a lot of features, but lacked in the community growing. So in the end, the project had dozens of features. Half of them were not maintained. So we would love to also support different DID methods, but we have to make sure that there are people implementing it correctly with the tests, with the quality, because otherwise we just are getting a project that will not work, and then people will move away to other projects.
Gotcha. So you'd rather focus in on one area than try to do everything. I actually have a question as you were talking, and I know that like when I looked at your LinkedIn, you were really passionate about like some of the UX challenges that you see in like the digital wallet space. And I think you talked about like the issue of maybe like it not being great for, or some things being not great for like if someone's older, like an older parent or something like that. What are some other UX challenges in the digital wallet space?
So you have to think, where will the wallet be used? For example, a lot of people say when you are opening a bank account, you want this like, with whom I'm sharing the data, please select all the data that I'm sharing, that you actively click, for example, I'm sharing my name, I'm sharing my age. So you are actively aware what you're giving away, which is totally okay, because it will give you this feeling of security and control. But when you are going to the daily usage, like you want to go into the metro, you want to get past the automatic door to let you in, you want this one tap. You want, like tapping your card, you don't want to select anything. It should work automatically. Just imagine when you have to go to the store, paying for your groceries, you have to type in the exact amount of money that you have to transfer to the owner of the shop. Nobody would use it. So we want this automatic automation we have. So also in the wallet, we implemented, for example, the automation part where you have different security mechanisms in the background. For example, you have said, okay, when the person is asking for my age, just pass it. If I've already shared information with this public key, accept it. So to give this automatic view. So we said it's an opt-in solution. So people are not forced, but we also thinking about, okay, in the end, the wallet will be used daily. So it's not like maybe a driver license where you only have to show it when you're renting a car, or when you're maybe controlled by the police, which maybe happens on average once in a year or so. And these are the different user challenges. And also like, okay, let's say you have a hardware-bounded credential, so your private key is in your device, so it cannot be extracted, which works nice. But then you're thinking like, okay, I'm getting a new phone like every 3 years or so because new iPhone is coming out, or my mobile provider is saying, hey, your 2 years contract is over, do you want a new smartphone? And I'm like, yes, I want. But then you have your, let's say, 40 different credentials in your wallet. For a seed from cryptocurrency, like we have a MetaMask, it's quite easy. You just have to import this seed phrase, this one seed phrase. But the problem is here I have my identity card. We have no protocol like an installation script. So maybe the ones that are familiar with Terraform is infrastructure as a service. So you are programming like, I need a database, I need an infra, and you can run the script and your whole infrastructure will build from scratch. We don't have this with wallets. So when you are losing your wallet, you're thinking like, which credentials I had in my wallet and how did I get them? And this is the challenge, because some credentials have requirements, like for your driver license, you first need your identity passport. So, and since we don't have these protocols, it could be a huge problem for adoption. So in the first, people will rush and say it's good, but when they see how complicated it's good and the whole responsibility, and here we say, well, since it's in the cloud, I could throw this laptop I'm having here away. I can go to my smartphone and have access to it. And for the provider that is offering the data, well, mirroring databases, making backups, it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
Of course, when the provider is losing its data, then it's gone. But he could build a business model around of it. We know this from other providers, like, for example, here, 1Password. 1Password is a credential manager for years, also LastPass, and people are paying a monthly fee because of this good user experience, like autofill-in, auto-synchronization, and so on. And this will be a very big challenge, because we honestly don't know how often we will use our credentials, our wallet in the future, because it all depends on the involving ecosystem. For example, when the government will stick with pen and paper, our wallet is not very helpful, because the government will still say, yeah, it's cool that you have your identity here, but I need paper. Or they will give you a paper and you're like, well, since it's not a verified credential, I cannot import it into my wallet, because just a photo of a paper certificate has no real value.
Yeah.
So this is
go ahead.
So this is some of the main problems we have. And as I mentioned, there are a lot of different solutions, like different credential formats, also different wallets, and some are working together, some are competing because it's a market. Some have founded a startup and want to try new approaches. So it's very different, very difficult, because nobody really knows when the market will rise, when there will be a demand where people are willing to pay for it.
Yeah, I think those are really good points that you brought up, especially about thinking about your target audience, having that autofill, I mean, not the autofill, the automations happening so that they don't have to go through all of those steps and processes. And I think it's a good point that people are already paying for some version of a wallet. Like 1Password is kind of like a wallet, like it's a credential manager. We do have a question from Discord, and it said, how does the wallet handle importing and exporting of credentials to maintain interoperability with other platforms? What are the current capabilities regarding integration with existing identity providers and third-party services? Earlier, you mentioned Keycloak. And wow, there's a lot of questions. And then how does the wallet handle implementation of protocols like OpenID for VC?
Okay, let's go step by step with the question. So how about importing and exporting? There is no API for this right now, but it can be integrated. So we are planning this, of course, because it's a good feature to import your existing credentials with the key material. Also, the problem is there is no standard for this. So it's like, okay, here's a proprietary solution. When there would be a standard, like, okay, here you can import as a zip file your credential as a JSON format and your key as a JSON web key, this would be fine. But unfortunately, we don't have the standardized import-export format. But let's say building a kind of step where you can enter the information, it's not a big deal. It will follow. Then the integration of third-party services. the whole system is has a REST API, so the wallet has an open API interface. So it's easily to say for you when you say, well, I don't like to have an Angular PVA. I'm a React fan. So it's very easy to implement this for this because all the business logic is performed in the cloud. So all the different protocols like OpenID for VC or VP or handling of the keys, everything is done in the browser. So the only thing what the clients are doing is rendering JSON. And this helps us that people say, okay, I want to integrate this. I want to integrate this in existing apps because here I'm only getting JSON, some information. I can render this, no big deal. It doesn't matter in what language the backend is written. My app is written in Kotlin. I can deal with this. And for the last question, authentication is done via OpenID Connect. So Keycloak is one solution, but you could use services like Auth0 or an own implementation of this. So here we have the different approaches. As mentioned, we are supporting OpenID for VC, so VCI and VP for issuance and presentation, the latest parts. We are not planning to support DITCOM because we see for the credential use cases alone for presenting and receiving credentials, for this OpenID for VC is fine. And because we are not implementing stuff like messaging and so on. And yeah.
And we have another question that says, how do you approach, I think this might be something you're interested in, the challenge of key management and recovery in a way that balances security with user accessibility?
So as a provider, we have implemented a general key interface. You could say the key is stored, for example, in a normal database, which is, of course, not recommended for going production, but you could also say, okay, I'm storing this in a HashiCorp vault or in another vault that you can implement. So there are different interfaces that you can implement. Same for persisting data. You can use a Postgres database, you can use SQLite. Of course, when you are using a key management system that does not allow to export your key material because of security reasons, then of course you are not able to export it. For this, as I mentioned, we don't have this standardized approach like, okay, I cannot export you the key, but I could export you a command how you can get a new key, a new type of credential. Maybe in some situations it would work in the OpenID for VCI flow when I could extract the access token and pass it to the new wallet. But here, where I'm at my current job at Sprint, we are looking at the different approaches from the usability aspect, but of course also the security aspect, because when I'm able to give you my access token, you are able to get a credential and register it in your wallet that was not used for the authorization part before it.
Awesome. All right. And thank you for answering those. One, thank you guys for the good questions. And then thank you for answering those really well. I only have maybe one more comment and question left before we transition to maybe some more fun questions that are not related to tech at all. And if it seems like I'm rushing, my camera always overheats. I bought a thing to make it not overheat, but I'm nervous that it'll still overheat and my camera will come off. So I want to end at the 1 hour mark. Thank you so much. All right. So one of my questions, and this might be, well, one comment I had, right? You were talking about, this is just a comment, not really a question. You were talking about like when people might switch from a device to another device. I know it, like, I'm just thinking like with the Web5 wallet that we're coming out with, which is like a proof of concept, or if people use Web5, they might not have that issue because they can just log into whatever, or I'm trying to imagine it. They can log into whatever wallet it is with their particular DID, and those identities and that same data would pop up. But you're doing a similar approach, but with cloud, right? Is that correct? Or no?
Well, we decide. Well,
Not really.
I don't know how to answer this. So, but the main part was like, because I have two phones and I want the access of my identity on both phones, and I don't want to copy any stuff manually.
Yeah.
So I want that have to be synced. Of course, we could use an approach like just using the cloud for end-to-end encryption. So still saying that my device is directly connecting to the relying party and not the cloud stuff, which would increase, of course, the security, because right now the cloud provider has access to all your data, knows exactly with whom you are talking, sharing. So it's the big controller who could abuse it.
Okay.
So this is of course the problem using a cloud wallet, because everything is for the provider unencrypted. He has full access to this.
Ah, gotcha.
But normally it's like with Google. Google could also, or Microsoft, they could also access all your data you have in Azure or Google Cloud. But they will not do this because it will hurt, or it would damage their business model, because they are charging you. So it would, of course, in the future, it would be great to have everything on the smartphone, but then we are in the situation that we need SDKs in multiple languages, like in Swift, in Kotlin, maybe in .NET, whatever, so it can be integrated in the different approaches. So.
Okay, yeah, I think you should look into Web 5, because we got Swift, we got, I think it's almost like we still have other usability issues, but I think some of the usability issues you're bringing up, I'm like, it's encrypted and all that. I'm like, it kind of aligns a little bit. Okay, and now I have this is a dumb question. Very, very dumb. I don't live in Europe, right? I see all these different organizations working on the EUID. And like, so Sprint is for the German EUID. And I'm trying to figure out, is it a competition to figure out who comes out with like the best EUID or the one that fits most? Or is it like everyone just creating an option for whatever you want to download? So I'm just curious, like, how is that working?
It's a bit more complicated. So the EU law says each EU citizen needs access to an EUDI wallet, and the member states has to offer it. So Germany has to offer one for the German citizen, France for the French ones. But it has to be a certified EUDI wallet. So when I'm a provider and I'm getting certified for Germany, this means only the German people are able to use it. So when I want to get access to the French market, I have to get certified in France. So, and the good part is that they have to be all compliant to the architecture reference framework. So we know that the protocols and the key material is all the same. What we are doing at Funke, and this is very interesting, I think we are the only country right now that is doing this, and this is very special. For this, maybe you can share my screen, because this is very interesting. We have a competition right now, because at Sprint we say, well, there are advantages to store something in the cloud. We have advantages storing it on the smartphone. We have approaches using our German card. We can use the TPM. And we said, well, let's make a challenge. So teams were able to apply for a funded track and the non-funded track. So here we have funded parts. So here every company could apply around the world. So there were applications from South Korea, from the USA, and so on. And here we have the 6 different teams that will implement a proof of concept. So it's not that we have some kind, okay, the final one will implement the German solution, but we at Sprint said, well, we don't know the answer to this, and why let not other people try it out? So here we have the funded one, like also to mention maybe, for example, Spherion and Animo also contributing a lot to the open source world. Animo is heavily working on the Credo SDK that were before in Hyperledger areas. And then, for example, in the non-funded track, very interesting, here we have, for example, Samsung, a big player, and also Google in this. So Google and Google, one of the biggest companies that weren't famous for data privacy or respecting user data, let's say it this way, are competing in this. And we say, well, yeah, you have to be compliant to our rules, to our data privacy. So I think they will do a very good job because Google knows how to build good user experience. So we will see the first results in September.
Oh, exciting.
And the good part is the result of these 6 companies will be open source because they got funded by the German government, and the requirement was, well, when you get funded, everything you are doing in this project has to be open sourced.
Awesome. This explains so much because I was like, every time I'm looking up guests, everybody's making a German EU wallet, and I'm like, wait, how could they all make one? So this makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much. We have one comment. Someone said, yeah, worth checking out Web 5. We're developing the Flutter one. Oh, wait, now with like about 4 minutes left, I want to thank you so much for coming and sharing your knowledge with us, and also to the audience. We're going to wrap up with just like a fun little activity. This activity is both for the audience and for you. So audience members, basically how this works is you give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down to any statement I make if you agree with it or you disagree with it. They're like light controversial things, nothing too crazy. And for audience, obviously you can comment with the emoji of a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I want to know what your thoughts are. All right, so first one is I prefer phone calls over texting. You got a thumbs up or a thumbs down for that? For you, Mirko, as well. Thumbs up. You prefer phone calls. Interesting. I prefer texting. I'm like, don't call me. Someone did a thumbs down. But it might be, I'm thinking it's culture. Go ahead.
It's like there's this funny quote. Why, when you can just call somebody and solve a problem in 10 minutes, you can just text 5 hours about it.
But it also, that's true. It does take way longer to do text, but it also allows me to like have the conversation when I want. So I just said I like both, but I do voice calls a lot for close friends. We play games and stuff. And then Torben said thumbs up. You know what? When it's like I'm coding and I need help on a problem, I'd rather just hop on a call than do the whole back and forth. Oh, my camera died. This is what I was trying to run away from. Okay. Or it overheated. Okay. The thing I bought did not work. All right. Next one is thumbs up or thumbs down. Do you wear socks to sleep? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Weird question, but no socks. Me too. Thumbs down. I don't know about other people. Some people say they can't sleep without socks on, but I'm like, get those off. Yeah, Tanya said my feet are free. Right? And then last question, thumbs down. All right, everybody agrees with that. The last question is, and we kind of talked about this earlier. Do you think Fahrenheit is superior to Celsius? No. I'm a thumbs up. I think I think it makes sense. If I say it's 90 degrees, you know it's hot. But if you say 32 degrees, I'm like, that sounds cold. Someone said thumbs down. Someone said Celsius all day. And then a learner said indifferent on that. All right. So thank you so much, y'all, for tuning in. We will officially wrap up before my camera really turns off again. We have these every Friday, so tune in at Friday at 12. And we also have a session, a show and tell about decentralized agnostic pay tags on July 30th at 1 p.m. See you all next week. Bye.
Thank you.
We announced it. tbdevs 1.0 SDK is now out.
tbdevs is an open protocol that makes moving value around the world much more efficient and streamlined. We're solving this problem with tbdevs by building a standard open source protocol that anyone can use for free and plug into.
We're super excited to have developers be able to start looking at this technology and start implementing it. We've put together a new financial protocol that we believe can fundamentally revolutionize the way that we think about transmitting value around the world.